Welcome. It's a great time for a Bitcoin update, as well as talking about altcoins, a trade setup I got on Filecoin, just entered earlier today, and cycle top targets. If I think the top's already in, what would shift my bias, covering a bunch of different stuff. So it might be a bit of a longer video, so bear with me here. We're going to start with some basic Bitcoin analysis. So February 12th, I posted this analysis on X talking about the two scenarios I thought were possibilities right now at that time. And I was favoring that we would not break down. I favored more of a bullish scenario due to the daily hidden bullish divergence and also the current cycle timing. So getting close to where we would normally see a blow off top type move. So that's why I favored that. We did not get that. We got this push down, which would be the CME gap fill scenario. And that's where we're at right now. So that's why I'm making this video, is because we just dipped down into this gap. We didn't fill it yet. So there's that possibility that we bounce up a little and then go down, fill it, and then see some upside, at least a bounce towards this gap here. And so if you think that the top is already in, then I'd still, if I were you, expect to see a bounce after filling this gap and maybe taking out some of these little lows here, but at least a bounce. Personally, I'm still on the side of believing that the top isn't in, but I'm going to show you guys what would change my mind. So starting with cycle timing, this is just the first piece of what could kind of change my bias. So if we reach the end of our typical cycle timing, which would be over here in October, so end of October, that is where I would say, okay, it's time to just exit the market completely. So that's just one piece here, cycle timing. That's going to turn me more of a neutral, bearish towards the crypto market as a whole. If we reach that cycle timing, this indicator is just the Bitcoin halving cycle profit indicator. It's not my indicator. It's just one on TradingView. That's free. You can search it yourself. But typically, this is what we see with the cycle timing. Is it's not a good idea to stay longer in the market once we reach this point in the cycle. Okay, so that's why that is one piece of this. Next piece, price. So not just timing, but also price. So if we were to reach this red box at any point of it, so starting around 175K up to 200K, if we got price to that 175 200K area, that is where I would also flip to more of a neutral bearish stance. So I would be very cautious at that point, that we are very near a top if we were to get up to that price point. Okay, so that's another piece to this, and this is the Bitcoin rainbow wave. We've never not hit that price target, so that red box, you can see all our other cycles always reach that point, and we normally see the blow off top into that price target. So very close to where we would expect to see that. If we do get up there, that's also where I would flip my bias to more of a bearish bias there, or neutral at least. Now, next we have the weekly uptrend. So the market structure. If we are going to lose weekly market structure, so losing this weekly uptrend, so I've drawn in these white lines just showing the uptrend, the lows. And so if we fail to hold the higher low on a weekly, I also flip. So any one of these three things that I just covered would change my bias. But for now, I'm still leaning on the bullish side, expecting that we will be heading for our strongest move to the upside towards that 175 to 200K price point, because that's what we've always seen in the past. And with cycle timing, typically we see that we get our final major moves around this timing in the cycle. So it's kind of, for me, not the best idea to go against what we've seen in the past. I like to kind of follow what has been the pattern and just expect that to be at least somewhat similar going forward. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. I'm not nitpicking tiny little things, but just overall, generally speaking, the cycle behaving in a very similar way, but not exactly the same way. So that's kind of what my stance is. I'm expecting that we do see this head towards new highs. So that's why if we get this gap fill down here, I'm expecting we're going to be heading up. And if you don't think it's, we're going to go towards new highs, we think the top's already in, at least, should probably be expecting we do see at least a bounce there, maybe fill this gap here. at a minimum. So that's kind of the stance here with Bitcoin. One more thing with Bitcoin. So just going out, let's go to a longer term chart. We'll get rid of the indicators. So first pullbacks after taking previous all-time highs. We've never not followed through. Okay, so here we have first pullback after breaking previous all-time high. Here, first pullback after breaking previous all-time high, follow through. First pullback after breaking previous all-time high right here. And right now, at this very moment, we are on our first pullback after breaking previous all-time high. So we've never not seen follow through. We've always had follow through after our first pullback following the break of previous all-time high. So I'm expecting that we'll see a similar thing. That's the theme here, is that I'm just expecting somewhat of a similar scenario to play out where this first pullback isn't our cycle peak. And while it might be, you know, things can be different, I'm just not going to be expecting that it's going to be different. I'm going to be anticipating that it's going to be a similar story. So if I get a good long trade setup here for a weekly time frame trade setup, then I would still take that as a long. I'm not going to just flip to bearish before we actually have any sort of confirmations. So this is still, in my eyes, it's a bullish trend based on my analysis. And so we did lose the lower time frame structure. So daily is in bearish structure, but weekly time frame structure still uptrend. I could definitely see, like, perhaps we got to the monthly. I could see this being a completed 5 waves right here. So that could be a completed cycle right there, this 5-wave move to the upside. So I can see the sentiment for that, but I don't think that alone, just this 5-wave looking move, I don't think it's enough for me to just say that the top is in right now. So I'm going to be expecting that we do continue higher, because I have more things that kind of point in the favor of going up versus going down. So that's kind of my stance there. And if I'm wrong, then, you know, I just get out and I don't make as much money. So I'm pretty happy with the performance this cycle. As far as catching the biggest major trending moves goes, for this big move here and this one here, got some great trading in on this particular cycle. So I'm happy either way. Spot holdings won't make as much if I, you know, wait until we break down here, or if it just fails. But I'm going to continue to hold my spot positions, and let's now talk about why I think that's a good idea, because let's look at Bitcoin dominance. So I don't hold any Bitcoin at this point in the cycle. I've already switched into altcoins, which if you follow me, you probably already knew that. But let's talk about this chart. So Bitcoin dominance, I'm still expecting to see this take a big downturn and seeing strong alts really take off for some pretty reasonably sized moves to the upside for, I guess we could call it an alt season. And so with this current state, we have this 2-week time frame, big nasty swing failure pattern off the highs here. And we just kind of did a little bounce up there, swing again. We just kind of wicked up there again and getting rejected currently. So I'm really expecting that, you know, this may just be the top here for Bitcoin dominance, and we get going on a pretty significant downtrend here at a minimum towards this lower end of the range, if not all the way down farther than that. So maybe down to around 41, 42%, maybe as low as 38 or even 35%, something like that. But I'm expecting this to still take place. So cycle timing wise, I've covered this a few times. Probably a lot of you have already seen that me talking about this. But if we put up the halving cycle profit here, let's go to the weekly. Okay, so this is what we typically see around this timing in the cycle. Look at this one. We start dumping out on dominance all the way till the end of this cycle timing wise. Here, similar situation. Goes sideways for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks or so, then dumps out. Get our big alt season. Where are we standing right now? Well, we just reached into this zone. We're a few weeks in. Okay, so the expectation is to get going to the downside pretty soon. And again, it doesn't have to be the exact same as every other cycle. I'm just expecting something somewhat similar. So by the end of this, timing wise, expecting we're lower. That's the general idea, is to see a downtrend somewhere inside of this. Doesn't have to be exactly the same as these other ones, but something somewhat similar where we start higher up and much lower, just like we did on these previous cycles here. So cycle timing way as Bitcoin dominance takes a tumble, going to be expecting a very similar situation as Bitcoin nears its peak. Money flowing out of Bitcoin, money's to be made on alts at this time. So speaking of alts, let's talk about that trade setup on Filecoin. So I did post about it on X. I talked about the setup a few days before I actually took the trade setup, because I talked about how it was getting ready to set up. Let's see if I can find that. I've posted a lot of setups and a lot of things. Here we go. Filecoin is getting ready for a valid trade setup. If we close a daily swing failure pattern with daily RSI bullish divergence, trading in a discount zone and weekly bullish structure, there are already multiple indicators with weekly hidden bullish divergence. So what is this trade setup on Filecoin? It's a weekly time frame bullish structure. So looking for a follow through to the upside. This is weekly time frame bullish structure low for Filecoin. This is weekly time frame bullish structure high. So what do I look for when we're in bullish structure? Well, I'm looking for a pullback to buy at a discount. And we got that. So we have a discount pullback here. I'm on the daily here, but this is the weekly structure, these highs and lows that I have with these horizontal rays. So we have the bullish divergence on a daily time frame, which is the minimum that I need for a weekly time frame structure setup. So we got the bullish divergence, and then we got these swing failures. And I also have the weekly time frame hidden bullish divergence, multiple indicators reading that. So the expectation would be holding this level at 2.666 or so on weekly close. It could wick it. It's fine if it wicks it, but just can't close below that level, or it's a invalid. It's no longer in weekly bull structure. It would be in weekly bear structure if we closed a weekly time frame below there. But I'm long at exactly $3, and I posted that just recently, earlier today when I took the entry. Let's see, here it is. Exactly $3. Managed to get the $3 entry. Stop loss 245. It's a wide stop loss because I'm giving it some wiggle room. This is a weekly time frame setup, remember. So, to see it down at 245 here, this is where the stop loss is. 245 around there. That's just to give it a little wiggle room. If we even wick down there, still give it some wiggle room, give it a chance to work out, and then expecting continuation above the highs at $12. So the risk to reward ratio is ridiculous. That's the setup, and that's why it's a valid setup. Swing failures on the daily off these lows of the pullback, discount pullback, weekly hidden divergence, daily regular bullish divergence, weekly bull structure. That's the setup. Okay, so let's also look at Ethereum. So I also posted about Ethereum today. Range lows on a weekly time frame. That's basically the thing that I'm seeing here. So we are getting a swing failure off of 2 weekly untapped lows right now. So if we look here, weekly untapped low right here. We had this one that's not a swing failure yet, but if we push higher, we could get it. But swing failure off of range lows, weekly time frame. Not really a great time to be flipping bearish when we are at this point. For a lot of altcoins, important inflection points like supports like this. So for me, thinking that, okay, well, every other time, this is where we see Bitcoin dominance, see a big downtrend over the coming 6 months, 6 months, whatever it is. Why would I be flipping bearish right now at support on a weekly time frame for Ethereum? An altcoin, which we should see run if we're going to get an alt season. The top's not really in. That's typically what we would see. So expecting that this ends up being an amazing opportunity for buyers. That's my stance here. And hopefully you can see why that's my stance based on the timing with the Bitcoin dominance, swing failures off the highs here, bearish divergence. We have this bearish divergence, I believe all the way to the 2 week here. Yep. Bearish divergence, 3 week, Monthly, yeah, monthly as well. So we have bearish divergence up to the monthly on this Bitcoin dominance, and it's a lower high here. So to think that, this isn't going to at least see some downsides, get some alts pumping up, I don't know if that's like, if that makes much sense. I think it's more sensible to believe we're going to see some more upside here. A lot of fear in the market as well. So something I posted was fear and greed index. So just the other day, a couple days ago, 10 extreme fear. So I then followed that up with Warren Buffett, be greedy when others are fearful, fearful when others are greedy. I'm sensing a lot of fear in the market. Most people are seeming to flip bias, but I think it's a little too soon to be flipping bias. I expect that we see a little more downside here with Bitcoin, but I don't know that it's we have enough here to say that the top is in. We can wait, see more development. One of those things I covered, maybe that one of those happens, and then I can flip the bias, but I'm still long bias here for the higher time frames. So that's, hopefully I've gone through enough here showing my reasoning behind all of that, why I don't think the top is in, and also showing, I can always be wrong. Never, I can't always be right. No one knows what's going to happen. So that's just what my thoughts are. Here, another thing to look at. So we got Bitcoin, 4-hour time frame. Some significant liquidations. We had some nice funding resetting going on, negative funding down here. Just something to keep in mind. But let's go out to the daily, look at these liquidations. So these liquidations are very significant and great thing to see here. So we had a significant liquidation here. We had some somewhat not really comparable ones over here. Biggest one we saw was over here, but marked our bottom. Typically, though, big liquidations. So here, let's see, we had some somewhat significant ones here, definitely here. These larger liquidation events, and this is the second largest that we've seen since this whole cycle, essentially. Typically, these mark close to the bottoms of a pullback, at least before a large bounce. So while I'm expecting maybe some downside here, I'm expecting we're pretty close to the bottom before we get a bounce after all these liquidations and still all the other things I covered there, plus the bullish divergence that's building up on the 4-hour time frame there. So something like this maybe, but then expecting a bounce. That's going to be my main case here. And what else to cover? Litecoin. So Litecoin has gotten more attention recently. I think if you followed me, you'd know I'm got my biggest spot holding in Litecoin right now. So I'm very happy with how it's one of the only altcoins that has held up. It even held its daily bullish structure. Everything else is trading down here. So if Litecoin was doing what all the other altcoins were doing and Bitcoin is doing, it would be trading way down here in this region like all the other alts. But this one just barely budged. It's kind of just gone sideways up here. Definitely one of the strongest altcoins. Has a bunch of ETFs that are currently under review and likely to be approved, so that could be playing a factor. But also I've covered in the past why I think Litecoin is poised for the biggest altcoin run through this cycle. So this next alt season that I still think is going to happen, I'm expecting Litecoin to perform the best. And so far it's holding up the best, that's for sure. If you guys haven't, check out my highlights on here. This is my most popular post on X thus far, 54 retweets, which is a lot for me. Normally I don't get any retweets. This is the 10 major reasons why I'm ultra bullish on Litecoin. And I made this some time ago, December 3rd. But I even have other Litecoin videos from before this. But check out this thread if you guys don't know why I'm so bullish on Litecoin, and follow me on X as well. I think that pretty much covers everything. I can touch on the Bybit hack that recently happened, just my thoughts on it. So I am an affiliate of Bybit, been an affiliate of them for years, and I still stand by Bybit. I posted on X about it the day that it happened, and I said, you know, Bybit is handling this really well. They're staying, they're keeping good communication with the public about it all, and they have been able to honor withdrawals in mass. They have been able to get back to 1-to-1 ratio for the holdings and reserves. I think they're going to be fine. So they did state that even if they don't recover any of the lost funds, that they would still be fine. I'm still trading on Bybit. The trade I took today was on Bybit. I'm not worried at all. They handled my withdrawals. I've made multiple since this happened and since the hack happened, and it was totally fine. So not worried about Bybit. I think there might have been a reaction to that, but personally still a big fan of Bybit. If you can access them, I think they're still one of the best crypto exchanges. And I'm sure they'll learn from this and increase security. Maybe they'll even hire the hacker to be helping them with their security. I mean, probably not, but that's just a joke. But it would be funny if they hired the hackers as to get on their security force to help them keep things secure. It's probably the best way to do it, to be honest. Bitunix exchange is another one that's good for guys who can't access Bybit. I'm also affiliated with them. You can check out my links to these affiliates. No VPN or KYC for Bitunix. So check them out if you're interested in an exchange and you can't access most others. They will allow anyone in the world. So if you're in America or you're any other country where they're not allowing you to use a lot of crypto exchanges, then there's no VPN, no KYC needed. Bitunix exchange. They have been getting more popular recently, but I've been with them for longer than most people have. I don't think most people even knew about them when I first started working with them. And I've seen a lot of other big creators hop on board very recently with Bitunix, but been using them for quite some time before most people knew about them. And they've been really great. I asked them for their reserves, and they actually had an audited reserves brought to me within the next month or two. They were currently doing that process. They were currently getting audited and going through that process to do proof of reserves when I asked them, so that I had to wait a bit, and they finally got that for me. And they said, hey, we just completed it. And so that's when I partnered with them, when they got those proof of reserves. Anyway, I'm just rambling at this point. Thanks, guys, for watching. That's going to be it. Personally, still optimistic about this, expecting we see some upside, and expecting the bottom's very close. Expecting that we'll get going to the upside for probably the largest, strongest move, most aggressive move into the cycle peak very soon. So that's my stance. Stack up some Litecoin if you haven't already. That's what I'm doing. That's not me telling you to do it. That's just what I'm doing, stacking up Litecoin. And thanks, guys. Have a great day.